Big Head Fred wanted to go into the curse lines through Grimforge and ignored the game's warnings of how much of a sexy mother Yankee he is. On his journey, he ran into a group of harpers that were struggling with the curse. But Big Head Fred ignored their pleas, for he had pockets to plunder at Last Light Inn, and his massive head with an astonishing 10 whole intelligence level already knew where to go anyway. He purchased the incandescent staff, the mighty cloth, amulet of the harpers, and the cloak of protection from Tally using the special 5-finger discount, before using the same discount to purchase the sword of life stealing and darkfire shortbow from Damon. On his travels, our hero Big Head Fred came across a being with more eyes than brain cells.
You bless them too, my queen. Where is their lantern?
Using his massive brain and 10 whole intelligence levels, he quickly taught the idiot into giving up his shiny moon lantern and marching themselves to their deaths. Happy about everyone being dead and his amazing mustache being cleaner than the king's arsehole, Big Head Fred decided to free the fairy and trade for her eternal servitude.
Protection from the shadow curse. What more could a dingus want?
He headed inside Moonrise Tower and purchased a net emissor and the marksmanship hat from Rowan Moonglow, before pimping out Astarion for the everlasting vigor potion from Araj.
Fine, I'll do it.
Eager to fight something, he backtracked to do some hag fight preparation. First, he buffed with guidance before drinking a potion of invisibility. After succeeding the investigation check, he headed inside. His big head, swollen from having to control the power of his massive 10 intelligence levels, decided that turning on turn-based mode would give him enough time to navigate the hag's back passage. The waterfall can be a bit tricky to navigate since any water swords will break invisibility, so our hero waits for an opening in the enemy's line of sight. First, our hero jumps here before walking over to this spot. From here you can misty step down to the bottom using orbital mode to make sure it's safe. After looting everything that isn't nailed down, he steps outside using this teleporter. He then attacks Auntie Ethel from a safe distance to force her to move downstairs, before running back through the teleporter and ignoring everything else. Back down in the Hag's Lair, he buffs up with Shield of Thralls and an Elixir of Vigilance, and uses haste. He has a bit of a brain fart when it comes to re-equipping the 2 hand crossbows and only equips a net emissor. So at the start of the battle, he uses his actions to equip another hand crossbow to his offhand. With his second action, he throws a grease bottle up on the sledge before retreating into this room. On her first turn, Auntie Ethel will summon her mind control friends you sneaked past earlier, and the archer in particular will spawn where we threw that grease bottle earlier. Unfortunately, the archer wisdom saves turn 1 and doesn't come towards us and separates himself from the group. To run towards the main room and throw 2 javelins at the archer. Fortunately, the second one crits and kills the archer, making up for turn 1. With the archer dead, the cape's invisibility will proc and you can move away from your last known location to escape the battle. Tired from a long day of carrying his huge head around, our hero decided to rest at camp. But Astarion rudely interrupts his beauty sleep. Things get a little kinky, and when Astarion says that he wants to be penetrated, Big Head Fred gets a little too excited.
You wretch!
Back in the Hag's Lair, I summoned the invisible mage hand and positioned it here. Then I shoved. Now, while you can throw and shove this one off the ledge, there's not really anywhere to go. I tried to summon the ogres to help with her clones, but they also tried to kill Marina, so that wasn't going to work. Big Head Fred went back to Moonrise to form a plan and stole a risky ring and ring of free action from Araj while he was there. Wanted to go get the blind ring too, but there was a lot of cursed undead in his way. His brain throbbed from his 10 intelligence levels, and he decided it would be best to let the people of Moonrise deal with them. He pulled them back towards the guards, but they didn't seem to care, so he picked off the weaker ones, remembering to keep his distance, before retreating back towards the rafters. Fortunately, when the Drider gets inside, they manage to aggro the room and everyone jumps on them. Back at camp, Baldurs says he would like to stab Big Head Fred in the eye, and he decided that that was a good idea. Next, he goes and picks up the blind ring. And next up is the Githyanki ambush near the road to Baldur's Gate. Now, to the normal person, having to fight 5 Githyanki alone is going to be a difficult task, let alone at level 1 and on Tactician. But Big Head Fred is no ordinary man. His massive 10 intelligence brain inside his huge Githyanki head has already planned their doom. The first step is to sneak behind them so they spawn in without ambushing us. Then it's time to use the Shadow Curse to our advantage by kiting the enemies through it. They will come back as cursed and dead, but they have half the amount of health and are a lot easier to deal with. Start off by ambushing them. Then you want to start your retreat early while they're still surprised. On your next turn, use dash and click heals and position yourself behind this wall. Any further and you'll be out of combat. Next, you want to put yourself inside the House of Healing and close the door behind you. Now that the Githyanki should all be standing in the Shadow Curse taking damage, you hide and start making your way towards the roof. For some reason, this causes the leader to astral step. Here, as long as you stay in hide, the rest will die to the Shadow Curse. Once they've all died to the curse, we get out of combat with the leader by moving away from them.
Don't waste a step.
The rangers are a little scary and you'll need to make sure that after every turn you're out of their attack range. This may cause some of the melee being out of combat too, but that's only going to make it easier to divide and conquer. Using throwing attacks from the rooftops makes quick work of the weakened Githyanki. And while coming down for the last melee, they decided to jump themselves out of combat. Now it's time to focus on their leader. You have to kite her around while dealing damage, but she can use Astral Step and has Eldritch Blast, which lets her attack you from way outside your own attack range. Start off by sneak attacking her and then using throw attacks. You can use your bonus action too before you retreat.
On my way.
Use another throwing attack before retreating and breaking line of sight. She should use Form of Dread before dashing towards you. Keep using throwing attacks and retreating towards House of Healing, making sure to keep breaking line of sight for Eldritch Blast. Fortunately, Big Head Fred has a keen eye for crits, so he's able to kill her quickly. But if this fight takes longer, you need to prioritize being able to break line of sight over doing damage. The reward is Arachnid Braces, which give us a telekinesis per a short rest. We went back into the Whispering Depths and hunt for the key to the Necromancy of Fae. We use invisibility to sneak up on the Spider Queen, before using the Bull Rush ability from the Mighty Cloth to push the Spider Queen down into the hole. Small spiders can be a little scary, so throw as much damage at them as possible. You need to kill one per turn. The second spider deals a lot of damage with its attack, but then leaves itself on top of the webbing. After using Shield of Rolls for the 10 HP, we use Magic Missile to hit the spider and take out the webbing for the full damage, but it survives and another attack might kill us. With only one health point remaining, we attack the spider once more to end the battle, and we can loot the key to the book. Now it's time to beat the hag. You'll need about 5 Fog Cloud or Darkness Scrolls, an Elixir of Vigilance for the initiative bonus, and we use the Scroll of Mage Armor just in case. Then sneak around here, jump behind them and go to this spot. From here you can shove them straight into the canyon. Fred tried to shoot this one right off the edge, but the game lied, unfortunately. He then used his potion of speed and cast darkness around himself. In case you're not aware, darkness blocks all projectiles, so this stops the clones from being able to hit us unless they're in melee range, so none of them are going to be able to hit us this turn. One clone does decide to commit Sudoku though. You'll want all the mind slaves gone before you start hitting the hags, so kill them first. Fortunately, after the disappointment that was the first turn, Fred gets a huge crit and is able to kill them with action spare. He decides to save the invisibility rather than break it and ends the turn. If you're not invisible and you still have an action spare, you want to use hide to stop anyone from coming towards you. Fred didn't want to have to sit through all the clones' turns every round, so he decided to kill some of them. But if you want to know which one is a hag, you can find out by examining her and looking for Fey life. He gets some damage off on the hag, and then on the hag's turn they try their clone trick again, but this time with Myrkul. He gets rid of another hag clone before breaking the hag's disguise. Surprisingly, this procs the cape's invisibility. On his next turn, Big Head Fred's brain tingles and he senses it's time to use another darkness scroll. If, unlike our hero, your brain doesn't tingle whenever it's time to use darkness again, then you'll have to count turns with a pen and paper, because for some reason Larian didn't want to have a turn counter for it. From here on you can just count darkness turns, shoot with your bonus actions, hide, rinse and repeat. As much as I personally hate Myrkul, I had to talk the hag into giving us her scalp and letting Myrkul go.
You greedy little bollocks.
But it was all for a good cause, because Big Head Fred got another strength level to help with carrying his massive head, and back outside after tormenting Myrkul.
Not permanent! Bits of him have fallen off!
He decided to take Connor for himself.
You bastard! Give him back!
Big Head Fred went back to camp and changed their stats for the last time. Strength went to 17, Dexterity to 16, Constitution to 10, Int and Wisdom to 8 and Charisma to 14. Big Head Fred still needed the Ogre's headband. But why work hard when you can work smarter? By casting invisibility on ourselves, we can stand in the middle of a goblin infested camp and summon the ogres. Using the horn doesn't actually break invisibility, so if you wanted you could just go AFK while in turn-based modes as the battle plays out. If you prefer to fight, then as long as you stay away from the ogres and kill one goblin a turn so you'll spend all your time being invisible, the ogres will soak up all the damage. Once the battle is over, make yourself invisible again and loot all the bodies, making sure to grab the headband. Big Head Fred didn't like the fact that his own people had tried to ambush him earlier, so he went back for revenge. From here it's possible to shoot both the leader and the wolf off with one arrow, but lining it up can be a little difficult. If the leader saves, then they need to go off on the next try, or it's most likely death and refresh. Next you want to focus on killing the mage first to proc invisibility before moving away from your last known location.
Have to keep going.
After they find nothing and you're out of combat, you can reset the ambush. But I forgot to be in hide when sneaking up on them. Fortunately they miss, and Shield of Rolls saves us. And our throwing attacks deal a good amount of damage. I'm able to break line of sight by using Misty Step and running away. We're able to kill the archer in 2 turns and it's just left with the wolf. As long as you click heals every turn, you'll be able to keep your distance and kite the wolf with throwing attacks. It gets stuck in this corner a little and there's a short panic before Big Head Fred remembers that we have magic missile and that he can pew it from around the corner. For the commander, he starts off by using a scroll of Scorching Ray on the nearby ranger. In this patch, I was able to use sneak attack on scrolls for damage. On the next turn, throw down the iron flask at the commander's feet. We try to get a kill with our bonus action, but we miss out. This next part has been rated too gory for YouTube, so we had to close the door to censor this out. After the turn of the century that was so gruesome it gave Rob Zombie a 24-hour erection, our hero can return to the room to lift the watershed. Focusing in on weakened Githyanki, we kill and proc invisibility, then use click heals and get away from our last known location. The Githyanki do a lot of damage together and the spectator doesn't have a lot of health, so it's important to focus down the Githyanki each turn. Ideally you want to be killing one every turn, but the spectator can frighten them, which can come in clutch. We get a massive crit to kill the last Githyanki groupie, and the spectator gets a huge dodge before another huge fright and proc on the commander. We're able to get off some damage before the YouTube guidelines door closes again. One more throwing attack before we misty step away and try to kite the commander. Things get a little scary when they misty step right next to us, and Big Head Fred didn't want to risk kiting them anymore, so he used an arrow of roaring thunder to blast the commander into the abyss. Being so close to an attack of opportunity that could have ended the last battle, it was time to loot the Moondrop pendant from the Cellunite chest back in Owlbear Cave. We basically equip this and then never take it off. You can also steal this ring off of Oliver in the Shadow Curse lands. This ring gives pass without trace, which helps a lot with stealthing around. With telekinesis we can loot Priestess Gut by moving her body here. We can also pick up Draw Ragzlin. Unfortunately, Minthara is nowhere to be found. Now it's time to get ability drain and Corda weak. And we hand in a bunch of metal to Daman for the quest rewards. We're mostly interested in the flawed Hell Dust gloves. Now it's time to kill Isabel so that we can get our Slayer form. She doesn't put up much of a fight, so she should be dead within a few turns. After convincing Jaheira that you most definitely did not just kill Isabel, you'll want to move out of the way so you don't get hit by her ice storm. Now you could just stay invisible and teleport out at this point, but that would be too easy and this channel doesn't even understand what easy means. Start off by misty stepping up onto the roof of the inn. Target any ranged attackers first and make sure to stay out of their line of sight. Make use of smoke powder bombs to deal with groups. Also helps if you remember to drink an elixir of bloodlust. Towards the end of the fight there will be a number of Shadow Curse undead inside the inn. It's important to identify any rangers by examining them to see what weapon they have in their hands. You'll need to come off the roof by the back of the building and start baiting them to come upstairs. All grouped together you can throw smoke powder bombs to weaken them and kite them around the second floor. The Moondrop pendant really puts in a lot of work here, keeping you safe. The hyper mode items and buffs are so fun to build around like this. After all the Shadow Curse are gone, it's just kill the trees and then loot. I respec Shadowheart into a Tempest Cleric as I will be using her to complete the Trials of Shar, so she can become a Dark Justicia for her questline. Big Head Fred's massive brain told him to approach from this side, then go invisible here. Pick the lock on the door which starts the battle.
You feel a tremble rising from the floor, growing stronger.
It does require a critical roll though. Fortunately my last roll unlocked the door. That brings Balthazar and all his friends into the battle. I also get really lucky as I accidentally wasted my invisibility, so this Justicia almost kills me as I tried to run away, and then just let the fight play out between the two groups. Balthazar will inevitably lose because the Justicias can apparently summon this thing if you don't just close the portals, and it can literally make itself invulnerable. Things get a little messy at the end, so be sure to teleport out or use invisibility to escape. I have Shadowheart equipped with some of my best gear for the clone trial. We're able to perceive the ambush, making it visible, and we open the fight with a fireball from the iridescent staff. Throw out your hardest hitting scrolls and buff with haste. When it gets a turn, either go out of its line of sight or use Sanctuary. Once it's dead and the rest of the trials are finished, it's off to you gear. Big Head Fred uses extreme cunning to convince Yu-Gi into having a Sudoku party. Close to being able to take on Ketheric Thorm, he decided now would be a good time to meet him. After convincing Zarel that he's one of them, he follows her back to their office. To kill Zarel, we use Cloud of Madness on her. This will make her hostile to her bodyguard for 3 turns, but she can save from it, so be sure to cast it from outside their line of sight. You'll need to damage her too, but as long as everyone else thinks you're an ally, you'll be okay to attack her. If she saves or you run out of turns, you should stop attacking and reset. I got a little greedy here because everyone was weak and I was lucky enough to finish them all off quickly. I didn't want Squire to be in the Ketheric fight on the roof, so I befriended him and then killed him in Ketheric's bedroom. Enjoy going back to bed tonight, Ketheric, to find your dog dead in the bed. Now it's time to save the prisoners under Moonrise. Start off by sneaking around the outside of the central structure. Using turn-based mode to sneak in, get the hammer and get out. Before handing the hammer over, we need to kill the guards first. They're too heavy to throw even at 20 strength in the Elixir of Colossus, but I'm not sure if the elixir matters. But we can throw them to their deaths with telekinesis. It's only a 5% chance, but they don't seem to get aggressive if you fail, so it's okay to spam it. Big Head Fred is the godfather of statistical probability though, because he gets it on the second try. The game gives the guard a well-timed cutscene, and as long as no one else is nearby, you're fine. Be careful where you leave them though, if you want to be able to loot them afterwards. The other guard weighs a lot less and the chances are way higher for telekinesis on them. For the warden, you can improvise throw her outside.
You were witnessed assaulting someone. You're headed for the cells.
And then shove her off. From there you can either use Scrolls of Shatter or Thunder Chromatic Orb to kill the scrying guys, or talk to Wilburn out of their line of sight. Fred chose to do the latter. Afterwards, Big Head Fred finally gets access to the Slayer form he earned after killing Isabel earlier. He makes one last check for any loot he may need, before it's time to let Shadowheart fulfill her destiny and become the chosen of Shar. Before stripping off all her new shiny gear and kicking her to the curb. Infiltrating Moonrise solo is not only possible, but it's actually pretty fun. At least I find it fun because it's ridiculously geeky. Using Shar's Spear of Evening's special darkness ability, you can cast darkness over and over again without having to rest. So you use that to block the line of sight of all the guards. Just make sure that you're in hide and the new darkness cloud is still around your character. There's a branch you can climb up the side, and if you're paranoid about being seen, you can cast darkness into spots where you need to jump. To get to Ketheric, you can sneak into this position and use darkness, being sure to cover the door. With 18 decks and the Dryad already dead, you should have first turn, but if you want to be sure, then use an Elixir of Vigilance. The most important thing about this fight is getting both dialogue checks. The first needs a 21 and the second needs a 30. You'll want both intimidation proficiency levels and to dump strength and take 16 charisma. I didn't, so learn from my mistakes, but this will set up part 2 nicely. The battle with Ketheric is actually a lot easier than you would think. Start off by using Shar's darkness in the middle of the room, drink a potion of speed and then hide inside it. I didn't want Sistera to start spamming Necromites, so I bursted her down with a heavy hitting scorching ray from Yuga's hand crossbow. When she was almost dead, I drank an elixir of bloodlust to get the additional action. We didn't kill enough Necromites, so things got a little scary. But when you have one side free of Necromites, you're safe to set up shop, attack, hide and repeat. Like in the hag fight earlier, you'll need to count the turns of your darkness and recast it before it runs out or it's game over. After beating Ketheric, he'll then come up with the greatest excuse I've ever heard to run away from a fight.
My lord beckons me.
Big Head Fred, with his eyes set on the final showdown with the big brain, decided he was going to need more allies. To save Zevlor, start by drinking an elixir of vigilance before interacting with the control panel. Just like Ketheric, it's Potion of Speed, Shar's Darkness and Hide. Now for some reason Larian decided to code cheating Mind Flayers. And by that, what I mean is that they're aware of the fact that it's a game and their win condition is to kill me. So they will ignore everyone else and try to kill only me. So as long as we're able to stay hidden in the darkness, then we win. Cheese me, Larian, and I'll cheese you right back. Speaking of cheese, there's still Ketheric and Apostle of Myrkul to deal with. Remember those dialogue checks from earlier, right? Well, Ketheric has one more here, and it will force the fight straight into phase 2.
Repent? Would that even be possible?
Now, I tend to stay pretty humble, but I do have to say that this fight is a work of genius. The Apostle is pretty strong, but it has one major weakness. It cannot move. So we're able to exploit that by meeting the immovable object with the unstoppable force that is our huge hard brain. First, start off by throwing down a caustic bulb at the base of the Apostle. Normally caustic bulbs are pretty useless, but the brine that comes out of them when they explode is special, and then it lasts until long rest, and it also deals damage, so the next goal is to get out of combat. To do that, you have to leave a last known position that is being investigated before Myrkul gets a turn to AoE pull you out back. I head towards the door on my first attempt and get pulled back, but we live thanks to Shield of Thralls. On my next turn, I'm able to hide out of the enemy's line of sight and get far enough away. When my last known position is searched and they find nothing, the magic happens. Now it might look like this is some type of bug or glitch, but weirdly enough this is probably the game working it as intended. Like I mentioned earlier, the Apostle can't move and the brine that we left at its base does damage. So what is happening is the boss takes damage, enters combat, immediately realizes there is no enemy within sight and so exits combat. It's just doing this over and over and over again. Now the brine only deals 1 to 4 damage per turn. So this is where I went AFK, danced around the room at what I had done, and then came back about 20 to 30 minutes later. And when that final tick of damage comes in, it was onto the real nightmare of the run. As Big Head Fred leaves for Baldur's Gate, he's presented with a stern reminder that he's the OG, the original mother-flipping Githyanki. So amazing that he pulled off Goku's instant transmission, taking him back to the beginning of Act 2, before he teleports back in the blink of an eye to Halsin, while a female voice inside his head tries to first trap him into having bear sex with Halsin.
Oh, however deep your pain, it cannot compare to Halsin's.
While dreaming about what could have been with Halsin, Big Head Fred is rudely interrupted by a bunch of Githyanki who wanted to fist him. He misty stepped over to the huge gaping portal and asked them if they would make his butthole this wide please. But they didn't look as friendly as he thought, so he went inside the portal. If you jump up here, you can just sneak around the Githyanki inside and make your way down to the hell that is this battle. Drink an elixir of vigilance and cast darkness on this spot before hiding and moving towards the cloud. Not only will this create a cool backdrop to the cutscene ahead, and it looks awesome when the Githyanki kicks the Emperor into it. Even after he's lectured you for 10 minutes while the Githyanki wait patiently nearby, the cloud will still be up with you safely inside. We start off by using an arrow of roaring thunder to blast this Githyanki off the edge, before drinking a potion of speed. You take another shot at the Githyanki on the other floating rock, but they save. As long as you don't get too close, the Githyanki will attack in a set order. The Emperor will mind blast these two Githyanki in the middle, stunning one of them. We go for a thunder wave and knock the leader down into the abyss. That's the biggest threat out of the way. In retrospect, I probably should have just tried to get the other Githyanki off the edge too, and not worry about the one too close to the Emperor, but I decided to try and take the defensive route by covering us both with darkness. One of the Githyanki monks attacked this void bulb that was lying around, while the other Githyanki was still stunned. The Emperor dominates one of the Githyanki and does nothing else. I should have done more here, but the potion of speed is about to run out, so I waited it out in hide. After taking a beating from the 2 remaining Githyanki, the Emperor chads it out with a massive chain lightning. Although he almost dies the next turn before clutching it out with another stun. But a Scorching Ray and another attack is enough to finish them both off. We then claimed our reward for that fight by unlocking our Illithid powers and clearing the way to Act 3. If you're still at the end of this video, I just wanted to give you a massive thank you. Much love from the bottom of my heart. And if you're not subscribed, please click that subscribe button, leave a like, maybe leave a comment, and I'll be back with part 3 in a couple of weeks.